With Roman Reigns asked about AEW being competition to WWE and an interesting finish planned for Crown Jewel. This is Wrestling Up. My name is John and you're watching the Wrestling Report for October 15th. Before we get into the rest of the video, make sure you subscribe to Wrestling Up and turn on all notifications to stay up to date with everything in the world of pro wrestling. With the New York Post, AEW president Tony Khan was asked why CM Punk is only wrestling on Rampage and not Dynamite. As Khan replied, he's given a great lift. When he's wrestled, they've been the higher quarter-hour ratings, and his appearances have helped lift the audience, and we've seen on Friday nights that people do want to see him, even this past week when there was great competition from baseball. While it's likely for Punk to wrestle on Dynamite, he might stick with Rampage for the time being. It was reported that Pac had suffered a concussion before taking part in the casino ladder match on last week's Dynamite, but it seems that injury wasn't as recent as some thought. During the bout, he took a deadeye from Hangman Page from the top of the ladder, with his head hitting the mat hard. On Busted Open Radio, Mark Henry criticized the decision to allow this bump to take place. I would not have had a guy that was injured recently take a big bump off the top of the ladder to the floor on his back. I watched Pac. I watched his head snap back and hit the mat. He just had a concussion a month and a half ago. I'm probably breaking HIPAA laws, but everybody saw that, and he missed time because of it. I would have been leery of it. Maybe he's the one who called it. I don't know. It scared me because I'm concerned about Pac. In the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Dave Meltzer would note this regarding the situation. The story that Mark Henry said about Pac just having a concussion a month ago when he took the deadeye in the ladder match wasn't accurate. He has had a concussion, but he hasn't had one anytime remotely recently. It was still a scary bump, with people saying it looked even scarier live than on television. Thankfully, Pac appears to be okay and apparently did not suffer a concussion anytime too recently. AEW EVP Cody Rhodes has been on the receiving end of boos from fans recently, and while speaking on Busted Open Radio, he was asked how he felt about this, with him saying, "Okay, I will use a real modern-day example as everyone has seen the film Toy Story. So Woody was having a hell of a time. He was getting played with every day. He was the best toy. But then Buzz Lightyear shows up. Woody gets thrown in the toy box. If you're wondering how I feel, take a look at how Woody felt in the very first Toy Story, because that, to a degree, has been my role lately. However, with that said, and my pettiness aside, I've been doing this since I was 15. That education is invaluable in terms of me not panicking, and in terms of also me savoring this moment. I have never had a run like this in my career where everything was happening so much at once, personally and professionally, and so I want to ride the wave. I want to look back at it and enjoy it. But yes, if anyone wants to know perhaps how I feel, I identify with Woody from Toy Story, if that makes any sense. That's where I'm at with it. Former WWE star Mike Bennett talked about his previous employer on the That 90s Wrestling podcast, with him specifically mentioning the current direction of NXT 2.0. It's one of those things where I don't think they know what's good in wrestling anymore. The proof is in the pudding. I can't sit through the show because as a wrestling fan, I don't consider it good wrestling. They can talk about how they're going to spice it up a little, or make it more R-rated, or whatever they're going to do, but at the end of the day, if you don't have a pulse on what wrestling fans want to see, it's just not going to be good. I was reading something the other day that still said the average age of the people that watch NXT are high 50-year-olds or 60-year-olds. That's not exactly targeting the younger audience. And again, I just go back to what might have worked for the younger audience back in the late 90s, early 2000s, early 90s, just isn't going to be what's popular nowadays. You need someone that understands what those age groups want to see, and unfortunately, I just don't think the people that are in charge there understand it. Sean Waltman recently had similar words when it came to the product of NXT, taking shots at the 60-plus-year-olds in charge. With Triple H yet to make a return from his cardiac procedure, it remains to be seen how the brand will fare. In 1996, Bret Hart would announce that he was staying with WWE and went on to sign a 20-year contract. Despite this, he would end up leaving for WCW the following year for a 3-year deal worth $9 million. On his podcast, Jim Ross claimed that Hart deserved to be the highest paid wrestler in WWE. Bret always felt he had a lot of worth. He felt that he should have been paid more, and I am not disagreeing with that at all. He should have been the highest paid guy in WWE by far. He was the most valuable player in WWE at that time, which is why to me it was not a hard decision. But also, I am not looking at the books. I'm not looking at Vince's accounting and so forth and so on. Of course, Hart would have issues with the booking in WCW and would be forced to retire after a career-ending kick that he took from Goldberg. After saying former UFC champion Ronda Rousey would try to make her return to WWE in 3 months to one-up her, Becky Lynch spoke to TMZ Sports and was asked to give advice to Ronda, who gave birth in September. "Don't come back, because I'm still on top, Ronda. You won't like it. That's my advice." According to reports, Ronda Rousey's WWE deal expired this year, with it not known if she will actually make a comeback. When it comes to Roman Reigns taking on the recently returned Brock Lesnar at Crown Jewel, it was noted by Meltzer that this match will not be a one-and-done deal, and that the finish to the bout will be interesting. The show is built around Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for the Universal title in the first match of what is expected to be a multi-match series. The finish will be interesting. There are ways to beat Lesnar that still leave a rematch open, and WWE has no qualms with a non-finish. Goldberg is set to face Bobby Lashley at the Crown Jewel pay-per-view on the 21st, but he might not be 100% physically going into the event, as he told the CarCast podcast. "Knee's much better. Hopefully I won't be completely healed by then, but it'll be, suffice to say, in good enough shape to kick Bobby's butt, let's just say that." If Goldberg is able to come out on top in his match against Lashley, then it's possible that he will get a shot at the WWE title against the current champion Big E. With WWE back on the road, they have been doing super shows, which see stars from Raw and SmackDown wrestle. There is set to be a split for these live events, as that should begin after Christmas. According to PW Insider, there are dates for Raw and SmackDown running in separate venues. The Raw touring schedule is as follows: December 26th, New York, Madison Square Garden; December 28th, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, PPG Paints Arena; December 29th, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, Coca-Cola Coliseum; and December 30th, Montreal, Quebec, Canada, Bell Place. The SmackDown touring schedule has one extra date, as it reads: December 26th, Tampa, Florida, Amalie Arena; December 27th, Orlando, Florida, Amway Center; December 28th, Washington, D.C., Capital One Arena; December 29th, Baltimore, Maryland, Royal Farms Arena; and December 30th, Buffalo, New York, KeyBank Arena. With Olympic gold medalist Gable Steveson now a part of WWE, he looks to make waves in the promotion as a member of the Raw roster. On the Jobbing Out podcast, fellow Olympic gold medalist Kurt Angle offered advice to the young star. "In amateur wrestling, you don't show emotion. In pro wrestling, you have to show a lot of emotion. You have to show when you're angry, you're scared, pissed off, happy, excited. It crosses over to the fans, so I had to forget everything I ever learned, especially my moves, because I was very aggressive in amateur wrestling, and I had to pull back a little bit and say, okay, let me give my body to the guys that are in the ring with me." WWE apparently has a WrestleMania goal in mind for Steveson, as we'll have to wait for his Raw debut. With WWE and AEW set to go head-to-head tonight, Vince McMahon may have played the ace up his sleeve, as the final 30 minutes of the 2.5-hour SmackDown on FS1 will be commercial-free when going up against Rampage. Speaking with Complex, Roman Reigns was asked whether he considers AEW as competition to WWE. Here's his response: "No. I mean, not for me personally. This is one of those subjects that's very subjective, and there's a lot of passion and tribalism that really sways and creates an unbiased opinion. opinion, but I can only speak from my perspective. I'm one of those guys who will compete at anything. Like, I bet you I can eat that cookie faster. I want to be the best at anything that I choose to do. We pull up on lawnmowers, we cut the yard in half, I'm going to beat you. My side will look better than yours. So me, I don't see the real competition with AEW, because I think their fan base legitimately is a hardcore fan base. So there's like a ceiling and a built-in ground to that viewership. WWE is trying to connect with everyone. We're trying to connect with the mainstream. We're trying to pull in the casual fan. We're trying to engage the new viewer while also servicing our hardcore fan base and give them compelling stories to fulfill them as well. I don't know if I've ever said it before, but I've said it before. When the audience is probably the biggest character in your show, that's strange to me. You'll hear it all the time, the reviews and the comparisons. I think because they are the new kids on the block, they're the cool kids in town, I guess, because of how premature and how novel it kind of is still. I think they're still being babied by these hardcore wrestling fans, which is fine. That's great. I don't think anybody's going to ever, especially from a performance standpoint, say, oh no, there's more opportunities out there? That sucks. So it's not a bad thing. It's a great thing for professional wrestling. It's just a weird argument because there's so much bias and there's so much I'm on this side and I'm not going to open my mind to the other side. And it goes both ways. As far as competition, not to me. There might be some other people on our roster who maybe think they need to dig deep and get better as a performer and what they do out there at the art form, but there's nobody in the whole world, any other promotion in WWE. I'm better at this art form than everybody else, and I stand on that. That's the totality of it. I'm not just talking about, oh, his spots are so good and he counters real well. That stuff doesn't mean anything to me. When you tally it all up, nobody touches me in this business. And this was your Pro Wrestling News Update. I hope you're all having a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you later.